Hello, it's all Michelle. It's March 29th, 2016. I'm going to record a piece that I've recorded once before, so this would be take 2. And it's called I Want to Be Truly Helpful. I should note that I recorded it probably just days following my last psychiatrist appointment, which was March 1st. So it was in that first week of March. Now it's March 29th. When I saw myself reading, I broke down a few times, and it had a huge impact on me. So I haven't really looked at it since. I recorded it raw, super duper raw. It had a big impact on me. And I think I would say in a positive way. I really shifted. Seeing myself read this piece in that state that I was seemed to shift me right out of that state and into a more neutral state, into a more accepting state, into a more balanced state, into a more slowed down state, into my present state. So I just wanted to give that backdrop. So to me this is a really powerful piece, and it is long, and I'm just going to read it. I really stick to the script here. I've got lots of water at my side, and I'm just going to get through it and see what happens. I start with a quote from Pema Chodron's book, Comfortable with Uncertainty. What you do for yourself, any gesture of kindness, any gesture of gentleness, any gesture of honest and clear seeing toward yourself will affect how you experience your world. In fact, it will transform how you experience your world. The title of the piece, I Want to Be Truly Helpful. I've nicknamed it a one-woman play, a poem, or something. Am I on trial? Or did I miss the trial? Will I have the privilege to have my case heard? Only a team of judges would do. They would come from many walks of life and fields of study. That is the only way I can feel optimally seen and heard, especially after all I've been through in the psychiatric system. Am I allowed a place in this world with my version of being? My label of bipolar disorder? Have I been optimally labeled? Can I be recognized as a variation in normal? A valuable variation in normal? A valuable variation in normal? What is normal? A girl can dream. Is there validity in my existence? My unique point on the continuum of courage and cowardice? Who is the judge of the value of this point, the truth of this point? My mere existence demonstrates my freedom to sit at this point. Would we gain understanding by creating a graph where we could all plot ourselves out? I see a multi-dimensional graph. Collectively, we would learn a lot in just the attempt to collect traits to plot. What a beautiful illumination it would be. A masterpiece. To see where we all sit on the multi-dimensional graph of human possibility. When art and science meet, an opportunity to enlightenment, whatever that means, we would better understand our differences. Yes, it's recording. We would be surprised at our similarities. An artistic spreadsheet depicting the tree of life, proving my long-treasured quote, there is no problem that a spreadsheet cannot solve. What humanity needs now is a multi-dimensional spreadsheet. Oh yeah! It promises to light the way to optimal understanding of what it is to be human. What it is to be human. Yes! After making this proclamation to myself, I note, this poem of sorts flowed off my fingers effortlessly into my computer in a unique context. The only way anything ever happens, I guess. I was very inspired to attempt to discontinue my low-dose lithium treatment. Neither my medical mind nor my common-sense human mind can figure out why I even need to take lithium. I have no idea what will happen. I feel so much integration has occurred since my first out-of-the-ordinary experience, many would call psychotic episode, in the fall of October 2012, over 3 years ago. I've gained much understanding of what was initially an overwhelming crisis. I've come to view psychiatry as a system of invalidating alternative yet viable mindsets. As well-intentioned as I believe most caregivers are within this system, I cannot support its reality police function. I want care and understanding. I want alternatives to medication if it is truly felt by me that any unshared reality experience is not optimal for mine or others' highest good. I think broadly here. I would insist that at least 2 psychic mediums are part of the team of judges if I am not deemed allowed to exist in my natural state. It is hard for me to know if a psychiatrist would find me mad. I guess I am mad. My scientific self would want that assessment, the judgment with a capital J, to be corroborated by others. I insist on a fair trial. I've spent 50 days of my life locked up simply on the opinion of 2 psychiatrists. Keep in mind that I left medical practice due to not believing in medical science. Not believing in medical science. Don't take me too literally. 18 years ago. It would appear that my medical degree has become null and void. No surprise to me that I did not agree with psychiatry's application of their knowledge. They had legal backing. I did not. I needed help. I did not need to give up all of my rights and freedoms. What medical illnesses result in professional credentials no longer being recognized? I will let you in on a little secret. My medical knowledge is still intact. Gasp. Has anyone ever found a couple of psychiatrists that do not share the same view? They do exist, by the way. Indoctrinated into an historical way of thinking that is backed up by the Mental Health Act, the legal system, Big Brother, the unique and long-standing entanglement of the legal and psychiatric system has created a convenient track for acute patients to be slotted into. Down the slide. Next! Down the slide. Next! Back to my epic dream of a fair trial, to be considered a sovereign human being, free to have a mindset that does not match that of a psychiatrist. I must introduce the model jury for my case. My children would offer valuable insight. They have known me for a long time, gifted in each their unique way. 2 mediums, people who are able to tune into subtle energies, would make the best translators. My mindset to the psychiatrist mindset. Translation is required. I have 2 specific people in mind. One is an Edmontonian. The other has acted as my mentor and lives in England. My occupational therapist. Tangent. I'm just going to have a tangent here. I have a dear friendship with another occupational therapist. Since I wrote this, I've actually reconnected with her. She visited Edmonton. That's another story. Years ago, my friend discovered how much help she could offer to schizophrenic patients just by using her OT common sense. Serendipity at its best. Simply helping, guiding patients to clean up, tidy their home, caring, and regular talks at a human level. Visits, one human being to another, usually in their own home. She ended up speaking to auditoriums full of psychiatrists and psychologists in another region of Canada, sadly. Left me with respect for the profession, undervalued at the moment to my eye. Next juror, J-U-R-O-R, my closest friend. Sensitive perceptions. She's the one friend that was at my side before my acute episodes, during each episode, and continues to this day. She has shared many valuable insights with me, about me. She supports my view wholeheartedly, without needing to experience it for herself. Hint, this is possible, people. My therapist. I want to call her friend. I don't think she'd mind if I did. We have a lot of shared philosophy, both gravitating to the same empowerment enlightenment teacher, EET for short. She's worked alongside many famous teachers, both alive and passed on, a basis from a renowned Indian guru. She's a rock star in my world. I would round out the jury with select friends. My longest-standing childhood friend. There is one residing in Germany. I met her at Arthur Findlay College for mediums. Another is in Ottawa. I recently met her while traveling in Amsterdam. We were both there for the same EET event. Yes, the same teacher that my therapist now works with in Colorado. Lastly, a man who began as a romantic interest. Now I am more of his relationship coach with his present love. He had a family member suffer a psychotic episode. He handled it with his neutral common sense. Did not get overly dramatic, but really cared and connected with his loved one. It brought tears to my eyes to hear him describe how he handled the charged events. Along with my hand-picked multidisciplinary assessors, I expect some fantastic care ideas would also be offered. I had lost all trust in the acute care mental health system where I had 3 unsatisfactory, suboptimal experiences. My trust will be hard to earn back. This is relevant for many patients. An optimal therapeutic alliance feels impossible to imagine for me with the current state of affairs. I know that viable alternative options exist in the world. If those in the system do not, I refuse to be punished for their ignorance. The systematic hold to the fact that patients cannot have insight is crippling for the field of psychiatry, and the reason why 2 different psychiatrists did not take interest when I shared with them the amazing peer-assisted open dialogue system. It is real. It is humane. It is caring. It is effective. What did they not align with, I wonder? It is offered today in both England and Finland, and spreading fast, when a patient, also a doctor, that's me, informed 2 different psychiatrists I did not even earn a polite pat on the head. One was psychologically hostile in response. Kind while. If I were to experience another crisis, I want to be cared for, not simply judged, locked up, and medicated. Care to me would be attempting to talk with me. If you cannot understand me, you will need a translator. That could be a fellow patient or a medium. I recall my friend was at my side in emergency trying to translate on my first admission. She was completely bypassed also. 2 doctors had boxes to check off. They had then involuntary admission certificates to fill out. She was shocked and traumatized. Not unlike all of my friends, I ended up in the lockdown that first time. Pretty dangerous stuff, hugging other patients, getting caught smoking in the bathroom with a fellow patient, getting caught lying side by side while holding the hand of a fellow patient. 3 strikes, you're out. Too easily connecting with others, too much love for this world, I guess. Harsh punishment to a short-term crisis that needed a hug more than a cage. Back to being cared for. I see my inner disabled 5-year-old self now. I recall with each episode, I craved hugs unbearably. I would need to be hugged a lot. I get really scared when I'm an inpatient of the psychiatry ward. I have been abused there, do not forget. Je me souviens, je me souviens, je me souviens. I have had all of my rights and freedoms overlooked. One time, I was fed 3 different medications that left me 25 pounds heavier and flattened to an automaton, a robot. One time, I was held down by 4 people, despite the fact that I wasn't fighting them, and injected with a cocktail of Haldol and Ativan that left me obtunded for 2 days. That's what my psychiatrist nonchalantly called it. Obtunded. As if it was the most routine thing. I did yell and shout, and that's what prompted that little incident. But shouting to me is more of a therapy, and it really had kind of run its course, but anyway. I wrote a story about that. Another time, I was legally deemed unfit to make my own treatment decisions. Left unchecked, my caregivers legally had the authority to inject me with long-acting antipsychotic medications. Again, 2 psychiatrists agreed with each other. Chemical straitjacket, potentially forever. I wonder if they have read the United Nations report declaring involuntary treatment with neuroleptics and antipsychotics has been deemed inhumane. It was so funny and at the same time horrifically sad that in the end I never took the antipsychotic medication at all. That was deemed so essential by my psychiatrist that he certified me unfit to make my own treatment decisions. It seemed kind of childish to me. If you don't agree with me, then I'll get my big brother to beat you up. I felt like I was back in the schoolyard, right down to putting pills under my tongue and then flushing them down the toilet. Unbecoming conduct for the doctor. That would be me. But he also. I know that I would receive better care outside of this medical paradigm. This means a lot coming from me. When I was in family practice, I was never shy to admit that when I didn't know something. A trait that served me very well. Medical science knew so much less than I expected prior to completing medical school. It did not seem my place to lie about it. Honest is not a strong enough word. Is there such a word that combines honesty with integrity? There should be. How about integrinesty? Onegrity? Maybe not. A diviner's rod of truth. I am that I am. Perhaps I delude myself. You be the judge. It may take a while to sort through the medical machine, how they do clinical trials, call it science, which produces magical results that few people can agree upon. So often the round table of peers, specialist doctors trained similarly, similar opinions to each other, issue the proclamations, only to rescind them a year or two later. Whenever I was in acute crisis as an inpatient, I sensed the fear in my caregivers, which terrified me. It brought my inner kindergartner up to the surface. I know that when people are afraid, they will be unable to care for me. They are blinded by fear, yet I was a prisoner to their fear. It was the making of a horror film. I felt I was too innocent to be watching that kind of thing. One time, when I was in the lockdown unit, I saw one of the other patients get a cocktail injection. It took 5 people to hold him down. He fought really hard. He swore a lot too, really loudly. Then he had a security officer outside his door all the time. He wasn't allowed to come and eat with us anymore. He could watch us, his face looking out the square window from behind the door. We all liked him and felt really bad about what happened. He and I played a card game called Snap lots of times. There was not much for us to do in lockdown. Our minds were the fastest in the unit before I was in... We all wanted to talk to him, locked up in his room. We were not scared of him. He would not have hurt us. We all knew that he needed to be with people, but it wasn't allowed. Je me souviens. I've always felt epically misunderstood when an inpatient in mental health care. Epically unheard. No attempts were ever made to listen. Only the obnoxious repetition of the sales pitch. You are sick. You are defective. Actually, they didn't say defective. That is what I heard, though. You will never be well. You will be on medications for the rest of your life. If you try to stop the medications, you may never think properly again. We just want to help you. They want to help me be non-existent and irrelevant in this world. My view of the world threatens their own. My mindset makes no sense to them. I was bullied by incriminating questions constantly. The main question I was asked was, do I believe I am sick? Do I believe them? I imagine there was a box on their clipboard marked, incriminate self. They badly wanted to check that one off. Only then would the treatment be going well. Even though that probably sounds like a joke, I'm very serious. The only sign of a positive therapeutic intervention in the caregiver's eyes was to agree to incriminate oneself, to agree with them. Never any point in discussion because I, and all patients like me, lack insight. Anything we say will be held against us and never considered to contain relevance or truth. Never any point in discussion because I, and all patients like me, lack insight. Anything we say will be held against us and never considered to contain relevance or truth. I repeatedly requested that we agree to disagree. We never found a neutral stage to discuss what was happening to me. Using their terms was including many unproven assumptions. There was no wiggle room for discussion. It was always them knowing with 100% certainty. Anything I said was from the disease and never to be taken seriously. Lacking insight, my translation, my insight, does not match the psychiatrist's insight. I morphed into an object for them somehow. There is a miracle if ever I saw one. If my thinking was different, it was always assumed to be pathological. Their care seemed to rotate on whether or not the patient, me, agreed with them. I was not allowed to disagree, a freedom that I somehow had lost. If I disagreed, they pulled out the legal powers. It is a godlike role they have assumed. Their judgment is the only judgment. As a physician, I would call that a delusion of grandeur. I inject that in. If we insist on judges, let there be many, and let them be from many, many different disciplines. I now require a cross-section of our community to participate in the judging, if we can maintain our humanity. Has it come to this? Oh yes, it has. Like any prisoner, I insist on the right to a fair trial. I wonder what understanding could be found with my creative pursuits. I offer up as evidence of who I am, both crazy and wise, my website, disabledangel.ca. I tell stories in a quirky way, sharing my learning in the experiences of life, documenting my transformation in a way that only I can. I write my own story. If I left it to my psychiatrist, you know it would be a completely different story. A story representing each of the 3 inpatient incarcerations, of course, is included. My mindset cannot be summed up in a sentence or 2. It will take way more than that. Not that traditional psychiatrists do not have a way of concisely describing my alternate mindset way of expressing. My stories are at least a fantastic case report to the workings of a bipolar mind, but could also be called documenting a transformation, a transition. No one moment in time defines any person. We go through stages, and I think my stories do document that. I am not the same person who wrote those stories. I'm already evolved beyond that. Keep that in mind. Tangential thinking, magical thinking, flight of ideas, delusions, as I describe my acute out of the ordinary experiences. Elevated mood, expansive mood, oh yeah, all of that. To look back at the good old DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, it is a confident and resounding judgment. I was reminded when I Googled symptoms of manic thinking. I chose the Mayo Clinic link for bipolar disorder, where they had an excerpt from the Holy Grail DSM-5, latest edition. One of the points, doing things that are unusual and that have a high potential for painful consequences. For example, unrestrained buying sprees, sexual indiscretions, or foolish business investments. Not sure if you can see here, but 100 different people might give 100 different judgments as far as what is an unrestrained buying spree, what makes a sexual indiscretion and a foolish business investment. There is an assumption that painful consequences can only be bad. My sense is that any personal evolution will have its trough moments, along with the peak ones. In my writing, I am not shy of describing temporary phases I have gone through. I challenge that any human being has moments that do not optimally represent who they truly are. The system does not value personal freedom. When someone is deemed lacking any judgment, a dependent is created. Then they turn around and resent the person for not being independent. Who will look after the dependent? There are an abundance of overwhelmed caregivers. Wouldn't it make more sense to enable and empower people? Where there is a will, there is a way. I guarantee it. I imagine each psychiatrist or family member of a patient could use this opportunity to play judge against the patient. Really entangled with social mores, religious views, etc. Here in Canada, we are quite the mixed bag. Bizarre to me when I was witness kissing my boyfriend, well, boyfriend might be a strong word, but anyway, a very close and dear friend, while in the hospital. First, the nurse awkwardly reminded me that fornication was not allowed. Hilarious. I've never had the urge to fornicate at the hospital. Oh, wait a minute now, I must take that back. In training, nearly 30 years ago, I did have the urge, and acted upon the urge in a hospital. Context. Always have to put things in context. I was the girlfriend, a medical student, of another medical student who was sleeping at the hospital. Private time was at a premium. Doctors in training work hard. It is nuts. Where was I? Tangent number 2, I point out for the non-psychiatrists in the crowd. My psychiatrist thought that kissing my boyfriend demonstrated how out of control I was. I definitely do not share his rule book. My society, the legal system, gave the keys to my shackles to this guy? I wonder what type of screening a psychiatrist undergoes prior to taking on the powers bestowed upon him via the Mental Health Act. I thought he was pretty out in left field with his kissing thing. Even my own mum agreed with me about it. The psychiatrist specifically told my mum, with my permission, for the purpose of pitting her against me. Completely backfired. Broke the last thread of doubt for her. I felt like I grew a foot taller when she told him she did not agree. My mum was there, and she stood up for me. That is bringing a tear. Not the first time, but this time. My mum is a retired lawyer, but that day it was the doctor who held the gavel. The age-old Protestant versus French Catholic War. I highly recommend the Canadian musical Evangeline, which illustrates it epically well. I was reminded how I felt as an inpatient under my first psychiatrist, male. After 3 admissions, I changed to a female psychiatrist, seemingly originating from India based on a slight accent. Refreshing change of vibe. Back to the topic at hand. I rarely partake in gossip, but I did read that one of the contributors for the DSM has deemed it an unscientific publication. Similar symptomatic statements leaving so much to judgment would never be accepted in most areas of life. You bring your car to the mechanic to see why it does not start. He proclaims, after inspection, that you have severe non-starting disorder. Gives you no new information. The solution is not found there. The label is not what is lacking. Your child's not doing well at school. You are told they have severe non-learning disorder. Oh wait, maybe not a good example. This type of thinking is fundamental to many problems within our society, but I do not want to get started on all that now. So more evidence for my fair trial, my 10 Facebook pages. There's Beautiful Truth, there's Disabled Angel, there's Authentic Family, there's Captive Gypsy, there's Manic Ministrations, there's Sovereign Fun, there's Joker's Wild, Optimal Health, RX, DIY. RX means treatment and DIY, do it yourself, and Physics of Consciousness, the latest edition. And I guess even since I wrote this, there's my Manic Ministrations YouTube channel, which you are now watching. And of course, my personal Facebook page. Why so many Facebook pages? It is my 3-dimensional spreadsheet in form. I create a new column or Facebook page for each topic of enthusiasm in my life. They each have a purpose, each their distinct vibe for illustration purposes. For me to take the judgment seriously after my fair trial, I want the judge to read through all of it. If I am mad, so be it. I ask everyone to consider, is there a method in my madness? It appears that there has been a long-standing assumption that the way I was before was the optimal state for a human being. I am convinced that is not true. Optimal is a coming attraction. For me, for everyone. Optimal is in the eye of the beholder. Live and let live is my preference. Back to the big question. What to do with my madness? Does it serve a purpose? What truly helpful role am I to play in this society we all call home? Am I disabled? Appears so to first glance. When did disability become a crime? How to describe my disability? I ponder that question regularly. Disability is in the eye of the beholder. What if my disability is being unable to be blind to a more expanded experience of our shared reality? Seems it was foretold from the day I was born. My middle name has been disabled. The meaning of my given name, Claudette. My first name is Angel. The meaning of Angel. A messenger. A disabled messenger. A differently abled messenger. And it is beautiful to me now. More than anything, I want to be understood by myself also. I refuse to be bypassed. I am a doctor. I am an expert in psychotic experiences, the silent P word, better termed out of the ordinary experiences or anomalous experiences. Here we go. Psychotic is kind of like the N word for people of African descent, the silent P word. See how consistent I am? I wanted to interject it, but it was already there. It seems surprising that nobody asked me any questions. The opportunity of a doctor having these experiences. Like if I was that psychiatrist, I'd say, gosh, tell me all about it. Let's see what this is about. What could we tease out here? Doctor meets doctor, and they discuss the case. Anyway, where was I? It seems surprising that nobody asked me any questions. Real questions, I should say. There is nobody more important to understand this than me. I regret to inform traditional psychiatric thinking that your approach has not enabled this mandatory understanding. Repeating over and over, louder and louder, your perspective has not worked so far. Time to change the conversation. By the way, if you did not figure it out, what I have just described to you is peer-assisted open dialogue, a bridge to a paradigm shift in mental health care. Coming soon to a care facility near you. As I often do in my written work, I am throwing in a short addendum that I do not believe was part of the first draft. Which burned at the stake syndrome. Deep fears and insecurities around personal power and visibility. I don't recall learning about that one in medical school, but in my purposeful exploration of what exists in this world right now, collaborating with people internationally on this very important topic of mental health, optimal care in mental health. So this which burned at the stake syndrome is common to almost all diagnosed psychiatric patients, including myself. I'm scared inside to talk to anyone. I used to be more scared. I'm less scared today. As a result, I am filming this. About my true feelings about my experiences, my disability. I always translate the word disability to different ability, just so you know. Boy, I'm feeling tough now to say that. It spills out into my personal life too. I don't know who I even am sometimes. I'm very shy to show my real self to anyone, even to me. My present self is distorted by my environment, likely true for all of us. In my stories, I work through the difficulty in just being myself. I slowly discover my true self. Over time, I've changed a lot, showing me how I needed to work through some things. Then I get a little bit deeper into who I really am. Like a corkscrew, I spiraled down into the essence of Angel, the disabled angel, the differently abled messenger. Somewhere along the way, I hit clarity. So that is the complete piece. And as I was looking to email it to myself so that I could print it out, because only one of my computers has a printer, I found another piece with the same title. So I'm just going to read this one. I want to be truly helpful. My first efforts at this title, which I had completely forgotten about until trying to print out this more recent production. So I will read. I have grabbed onto the idea that to be truly helpful will be a lifetime aspiration. Of course, it can be difficult to assess whether something is truly helpful or not. Yes, it's recording. Am I just feeding my own ego and personal desires? Do I lift myself up as I peer to serve another? Whose agenda is being served? There are always different levels of truly and different levels of helpful. The other lifelong tenet is to live and let live. Freedom and free will are paramount. I believe that the person that stands before you is only one aspect of a multidimensional being. It is my will to act in consideration of my and the other's highest aspects of what is truly helpful. From one perspective, to think this way, one would never want to help. The way I view it, the higher perspective lets you know very clearly when to help who and how to help. You know because you feel an instant enthusiasm. It will be enjoyable to truly help when it is within your role and skills to do so. When you feel slight resentment or that you do not truly want to help, it is best to honor your own reaction and either not offer or say no when asked. These acts of being truly helpful can be small and personal, but they can just as easily be larger and more systemic. I desire solutions. I look for solutions. I find solutions. I upgrade solutions. I create solutions to optimize the health and wellness of people. I find a wide-angled lens works very well. To me, my psychiatrically labeled experiences widened my lens. Wider perceptions using senses outside of the primary five. It is not crazy. It is science. Best fit is quantum physics. Simple tool. Describe the two mindsets' basic philosophy of health. You ask patients which statement represents their philosophy the closest. Once a health team knows the patient's philosophy, they can align their care to establish a trusting, therapeutic alliance. This is the cornerstone of care, health care, mental, physical, or otherwise, spiritual, emotional, whatever you want to say.